certification in the area of stress management. So I thought I would share all that information with you in today's session, because stress is something that is universally relevant. Stress affects us. Is the screen visible?
Madam.
Is the
Yes,
screen
madam.
visible?
Slide is
Yeah.
there.
Right. And my voice is clear,
Yes,
right? My voice is clear.
Yes,
Yeah, fine.
yeah.
Yes,
Right.
yes, clear.
Right. So stress is something that affects us all, irrespective of our age, gender, economic position, social status, faith, religion, or whatever it is. None of us are immune from stress. And though a little stress is okay, in fact, some stress is actually beneficial. Too much of stress can wear us down. It can make us sick, both physically as well as mentally. In 2019, American Psychological Association conducted a survey, and they found out that every 7 out of 10 adults that they surveyed, they reported stress, unbearable levels of stress. And in 2020, again, when they conducted the survey, the figure rose to 8. In 2017, it was 7 out of 10 people who reported high levels of stress, and in 20, it was 8. 21 results are not yet out. I don't know. I mean, the figures might definitely be high, and not just in this study was conducted in America, but I'm sure if the study was done in any other part of the world, the results would have been the same. That is how omnipresent stress is in today's lives, right?
Dr. Kavita, have you changed the slide? Okay.
Yes,
This
yes,
was
I
changed.
have.
Everyone knows what stress is. That's the next slide, right?
Yes, right.
Okay, fine. Because I thought maybe the slides are not changing at my end. Thank you.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the second slide that I'm showing. Right. This is a quotation by Hans Selye. He says, everyone knows what stress is, but no one really knows. Now, Hans Selye is a Canadian endocrinologist who can be credited with incorporating stress into the medical terminology. Prior to that, stress was a term that was used only in physics. In physics, stress refers to the force that is applied on a given area. Hans Selye, who can also be considered as a father of stress research, conceptualized stress as the manner in which a body responds to crisis situations. However, in spite of contributing so much to the field of stress, he still feels that there is a lot about it that we still need to know. Right? So there's so much of research happening all across the world in the area of stress management, but still there are a lot of unanswered questions. There are a lot of aspects that still need to be found out. So what exactly is stress? See, we all know what it is to feel stressed, but it's not easy to pin down what stress means. In fact, stress is not explicitly defined even in the medical terminology also. So when you're working under a deadline, you're having an argument with your spouse, you're stuck in a traffic, you're appearing for an exam, you're managing your finances, you're disciplining your teenage child, you are experiencing stress, right? So when I am saying that I'm stressed, I could either be responding to the situation that is putting pressure on me, or I could be referring to my reaction to that pressure. But it is not important for us to arrive at a textbook definition of stress. Now, what is relevant to us? Understanding the impact of stress and knowing how to manage it. That is what is important to us as far as stress management is concerned, because we are not researchers in the area of stress. We are all individuals who are trying to manage our stress levels. So for us, what is the impact of stress that we are having in our lives, and knowing how to manage that is more than enough for us. So in simple terms, I can tell you that stress is the way we react when we face excess pressures and demands. Mental Health Foundation UK has defined stress as a feeling of being overwhelmed or unable to cope with mental or emotional pressure. And Hans Selye, who is the father of stress research. In 1936, he defined it as the non-specific response of the body to any demand for change. That is the way our body responds whenever there is some change to it. And he talks about non-specific response. That means any kind of stressor we experience, the response would still be the same. That is Hans Selye's definition. So in simple words, the textbook definition, this is the definition of stress that I've taken from a textbook on organizational behavior. This says stress is the wear and tear that our minds and bodies experience as we cope up with our continually changing environment. So whenever we are facing some demands, whenever we are facing some pressures, we experience stress. Now, this stress would go up even further in two different scenarios. Now, what are those two different scenarios? So take, for example, you are asked to submit an assignment by today evening, right? Now, that is a demand that is put on you. You feel stressed, right? Anybody would. So you're asked to do something by so and so time. You're asked to do something by in some period. You would feel stressed. Assume you do not have enough resources to do this. Your stress levels would go up. So for example, you're asked to submit an assignment by today evening 6 p.m. Your stress levels would be high. You don't have the required information to prepare that assignment, or you don't have your laptop with you. There's some connectivity issues wherever you are. So you're not having enough resources. Your stress levels would go even higher. And one more thing, your stress levels would be even higher if the stakes are high. That is, the outcomes are important or outcomes are relevant to you. So for example, you're asked to submit an assignment today evening and somebody tells you that, your promotion depends on how good this assignment is, right? So if somebody tells you that, would your stress levels be even higher?
Yes.
Definitely, yes. So somebody asked me to submit an assignment, I would experience stress. I don't have a laptop to submit it by today evening, my stress levels would go even higher. And then somebody tells me that, your promotion would depend on the assignment that you submit today, my stress levels would, would go much higher. So what this implies is that we feel stressful only when it is important for us. If that particular situation or scenario of that particular outcome is not important for us, not relevant to us, we wouldn't feel stressed at all. So, for example, there's a cricket match between India and Australia. Now, all cricket, there's a final match between India and Australia. If there are any cricket lovers in this group here, I'm sure you would all have high levels of stress. But same thing, there is a cricket match between Afghanistan and Scotland. Would your stress levels be high even in that situation?
No, madam. No, ma'am.
Not at all, right? Because between India and Australia, it is important to us, it is relevant to us that who wins. Whereas if it is between Afghanistan and Scotland, it doesn't make any difference for us. Whether Afghanistan wins or Scotland wins or Ireland wins, it doesn't make any difference to us. So only those situations or only those scenarios which are important to us, which are relevant to us, cause stress in us. This precisely explains why most of us experience work stress. Because work is important to us. Work is a source of livelihood for us. It gives us a feeling of self-worth and competence. So as long as we are working, we would experience work stress. There's no way that you can run away from it. Maybe the day you are retired from work, work stress would vanish from your lives. Some other stresses would be there anyway to take care of us, right? So work stress is inevitable. We cannot escape from it because we give it so much of importance in our lives. Right. So the first step in managing stress is having a clear understanding of the signs and symptoms of stress. But recognizing these symptoms may be much harder than we think because we are so used to being stressed that we often don't know that we are stressed until we are at the breaking point. I'm sure you must have heard these news that, a young man in his late 20s, early 30s, had a cardiac arrest and died at a young age. I'm sure that his body must have given him signals, but he failed to understand those. and maybe it led to that problem that, it took away his life. So understanding the signs and symptoms of stress is very, very important. Now, stress can affect all aspects of our life, our mind, our body, emotions, behaviors. No aspect of ours is immune from stress. Now, before discussing these symptoms, let me clarify with you that many of these symptoms of stress that I have just listed out in the PPT here could also be symptoms of other health problems. So it's only a doctor who can evaluate your symptoms and rule out other conditions. For example, under physical signs of stress, I have listed high blood pressure. So if somebody is experiencing high blood pressure and they say, no, it's not a physiological problem, I don't need to go to a doctor because I heard in a session that this is just a symbol, sign or a symptom of stress. No, that's not the right thing to do. Right? These are probable symptoms of stress. So if we could manage stress, these signs or symptoms could reduce, but that doesn't mean that you don't visit a doctor if you have any of these physical signs. Right? So let us look at some of the psychological signs or symptoms of stress. Trouble in remembering, loss of memory, difficulty in concentrating. People experience this. They're not able to remember small things. They're finding it very difficult to concentrate, and they're constantly worrying about something or the other. These are the psychological symptoms of stress. So if a person is experiencing these, it could be a probable indicator that that person is experiencing stress. For example, a person must have had very good memory always, but last 6 months, 1 year or 2 years, he's forgetting a lot of things. Maybe that could be a sign, that could be a symptom that that person is under stress. Similarly, emotional signs also. People get angry very easily. They are irritated for small reasons. People are frustrated all the time. These are all also again emotional signs of stress. Right? Physical signs. Now our body also keeps sending signals to us. Our body also tells us that you are under stress. So what are those signals that our body sends us? High blood pressure, changes in weight. Sometimes we lose weight, sometimes we gain weight for no valid reason. Frequent colds, infections, gynec problems, hormonal imbalances. These are all some of the ways in which our body is telling us that you are under stress and you need to take care of me, that is the body. Right? Then behavioral signs. Sometimes the fact that a person is under stress could also be evident in the way he is behaving. Poor self-care is one. Researchers say that it is one very obvious symptom of stress. That is, people do not take care of themselves. What is what is good for you, but you don't do it. I know I'm gaining weight. I need to exercise. I need to take care of myself. I need to take care of my diet, but I'm not doing it. That means I am under. See, what is good for me, I know, but still I'm not doing it. That is very obvious that I am under stress. Then people have shift in their appetite. They either start eating more or they start eating very less. They lose their appetite, or they feel like eating a lot. They feel like eating a lot of junk food. That is also a behavioral symptom of stress, and they do not take time to enjoy the things that they like. Like somebody likes painting, but they no longer paint. Somebody likes reading books, but they no longer read books. They have nothing else to do, but still they're not doing things that they like. And excessive dependence on alcohol, smoking, drugs. These are all again signs and symptoms of stress. Now, another disclaimer that I would want to add here is that since people handle stress differently, their symptoms also vary. Right? So there could be a person who could be under excessive stress, but that person might have very normal blood pressure. Or there could be a person who's under so the physical signs of stress might be completely absent in that person. Or there could be a person in whom you do not see any kind of psychological symptoms of stress. So he's got very good memory, he can concentrate and things like that. But stress is having an impact on his body. So we don't know. It depends on how you handle stress. Yes. Yeah. How you handle stress, and sometimes our body composition, sometimes the way we genetically are, that also could define the way how these various signs and symptoms of stress are evident in us. Just a second.
Exercise, yoga.
Yes, sir, you're right. We'll come to that point. Right. Exercise, yoga, these are really helpful as far as stress management is concerned. Right. Okay. So now, having understood the signs and symptoms of stress, now let us look at the various causes of stress. Now, the moment you look at this slide, it becomes very obvious to you that stress is caused by both internal as well as external factors. It's a huge misconception that stress is always caused by external factors. So, if I'm stressed, I blame my husband, I blame my, boss, I blame my colleagues, kids, my maid, and the list goes on. But the truth is that stress is also self-induced. I am also to be blamed for the stress that I am experiencing. So that is why you see two things here, external as well as internal causes. Now coming to this, the physical environment. See, excess noise, glaringly bright lights, unbearable heat, congested places, all of them cause stress, right? In fact, I'm sure you all must have experienced this, that when you hear a sudden loud noise, your heart starts beating faster. Because your mind associates a loud noise with a threat, with a danger. So research says that people who are in a very noisy place, their body releases those hormones which are usually released when a person is in a stressful situation. So continuously being in a noisy environment, continuously being in those artificial glaring bright lights, congested places also could increase your stress levels. So always try to make your environment, wherever you are staying, wherever you're working, wherever you're living, as comfortable as possible. See, I know it is impractical to expect that I eliminate all kind of noise, unnecessary noise from my surroundings. We can't do that. We cannot control everything around us, or you cannot say that I'll turn my home or my workplace into a very, very spacious place. Can we do that overnight? We cannot. That's not possible. But to whatever extent, that is why I said to make your environment as comfortable as possible. So, I cannot change my workplace or change my home from a congested place to a spacious place overnight. But maybe I can try to reduce the clutter, try to make it as clutter-free as possible, try to discard or throw away things that are not really needed. Right? So all these small things can, we can do these small things to make our place more comfortable, convenient, and thereby we can reduce our stress levels. The next external cause that is listed in the PPT here is social interaction. When you talk to people around you, it could be your family, it could be your colleagues. So if somebody is rude, somebody is very authoritative, somebody makes a nasty comment, how do you feel? Do you like it?
No, ma'am.
No, nobody likes it. It spoils our entire mood, right? So our social interactions with others also causes stress in us, right? Next, coming to workplace. See, how much percentage of your time do you spend at workplace? When I say at workplace, it could also be virtual. How much of percentage of time do you spend at workplace with your colleagues? Can anybody
70% of our daytime we spend 70%.
Yes. 70, 75% also. See, earlier when people were commuting, There were people who spent 2.5, 3 hours also every day commuting with their colleagues in their office bus or in a shared cab and things like that. So if you add up all those things,
Madam, earlier it was 7 to 8 hours the working period. Now virtually it has gone up to 12 hours.
yes, sir, you're absolutely right.
Yes. And
All
Sunday also, madam.
oh, is it like that for you also?
Yeah,
Yes.
meetings on Sundays.
Yes, yes, yes. All of us are going through the same thing. I don't know if it is only for the teaching fraternity or others, but at least in teaching fraternity, everybody is experiencing the same. And so, initial few months, I think we all enjoyed working from home, but I guess now all of us are waiting to go back to the regular routine, 10 to 5 or whatever it is. Right. So, when we spend 75% of our time at work or with our colleagues, whatever happens there at workplace with our colleagues would definitely have a huge impact on us. So therefore, workplace also is a very important cause for stress. Some workplaces have unrealistic deadlines, difficult targets, discrimination, partiality, favoritism. These things also could lead to stress in people, especially partiality, favoritism, discrimination. These things they cause more stress in individuals rather than unrealistic deadlines. So if a person can handle working an extra 1 hour, 2 hours, or things like that to complete his assignment, but being discriminated against, such kind of things are not acceptable to anybody. So they increase the stress levels much more than anything else. Then major life events. Now coming to major life events, birth of a child, marriage, divorce, death of a family member, promotion, transfer, all these life events put us in stressful situations. Now, one interesting thing that you would have noticed here is, did anybody notice anything interesting or unusual in whatever I said just now? Major life events like birth of a child, marriage, divorce, death of a family member, promotion, transfer, all of them put us in stressful situations. Did you observe anything interesting in this?
So, madam, when you talked about major life events, I happen to think about COVID situation, and this COVID has affected like many of Indians and many of the people worldwide, but it has affected me as well. I am a social person, but then I am 24 hours at home, and yes, it's a major life events which has affected me.
Right. Yes, sir. You're right. So there are a lot of people for whom going out, interacting with others is as important as eating and sleeping. So for such kind of people, this COVID has had a huge impact, right? And now, and the major life events that I listed down, see, usually we associate stress with unpleasant situations in our life. Do you all agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Stress is unpleasant.
Yes, stress is always associated with unpleasant things in our life. But I just now told you that birth of a child, marriage, promotion, even these things put us in stressful situations. So stress is not always caused by unpleasant or adverse situations. Things like birth of a child, marriage, promotion, things that we look forward to, even such kind of things also can put us in stressful situations. And the reason,
Madam, I have a question if you allow.
yes, please.
Madam, a student appearing for a very important examination also faces a stress. So is it a positive stress or a negative stress?
Okay, right. There's something called as eustress and distress. Eustress is positive stress. Distress, actually, we'll come to
Sure, ma'am. Yeah.
distress
No
is
problem.
negative stress or
Okay.
adverse stress.
Okay. Sure,
Right.
ma'am.
We'll come to that. Yes, that was a very interesting observation that you made. Right. So the point that I'm trying to make is, sometimes what we've been waiting for so long all our life, when we get that, like promotion, for example, or a child or getting married. Maybe you were waiting so long for it. But if you're not prepared for it, if you're not equipped for that changed situation, even that could put you under so much of stress. Do you agree? I mean, people who, when you had a child, or when you newly married, or when you just shifted, moved from one job to another job, are there any participants here who would have experienced stress? I'm sure.
Madam, does this include financial management during the
Yes,
marriage and all?
During?
During marriages, during wedding, or loss in
Yes,
the family, it's also a severe stress, as you have mentioned.
right.
I just wanted to know whether in these major life events, does even the financial aspect include?
Financial aspect is not a life event as such, but yes, in India, marriage is associated with a lot of financial expenditure, but we can't call it as a life event.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, madam, I would like to put some input if you allow.
Yes.
So 2018 September, I was invited in a conference to present a talk on my research work. And I believe that was a really stressful condition, a positive stressful condition, in the sense I was invited as a guest lecturer and it was an international conference. It was outside India, and then I had a very great stake on me that I need to present it to
Right, sir. See, I'm sorry
expert.
to interrupt you at this point of time.
Yeah.
Now, this is a situation which you must have dreamt of, which all of us, being in the teaching fraternity, all of us would want to be in your place, being invited to an international conference to present a paper.
Yeah,
This is something that you must have looked forward to, but in spite of that, it did put stress on you.
Yes, true. I was stressful, like I
Yes.
was stressful for my presentation, how I will perform and all those things. Yes,
Right,
ma'am.
right,
Yeah.
right. So that is the point that I was trying to make. Sometimes much awaited events in our life also could put stress on us. Stress is not always because of, some adverse or negative situations, right? Next, coming to the daily hassles, daily hassles like, traffic, unreliable public transport, mechanical breakdown, maid not coming, things like that, all these things also could cause immense stress to us. So these were all the external causes of stress. Now, before moving to internal causes, I want to tell you one thing. Stressors are additive. Additive, ADDITIVE. That it means, see, when you look at an individual stressor, it might appear very insignificant, very trivial. For example, I told you noise causes stress, traffic causes stress, congested places cause stress. Now, some of you might feel, what is this for every small thing? How can noise cause stress? How can just congested place cause stress? See, I'm sure, I don't know if you have experienced this, sometimes at home or at workplace, for a very small thing, you react very, very adversely. You shout at the top of your voice, or your reaction was extreme. For example, a couple of days back, my son threw down a glass of water unintentionally, and that was the time for me to go to office. I was already getting late, and unintentionally, by mistake, he threw a glass of water, and I shouted and yelled at him. How could you be so careless? Why do you do all this? Things like that. I did that. I did that, and I was driving to college. I was, thinking to myself, why did I have to shout at him for such a small thing? Unintentionally throwing a glass of water is not a sin, not a crime. But I did shout at him at the top of my voice. Why did I do that? So I was thinking to myself. Yes.
Situational.
Did anybody experience a situation like this?
Yes, madam. it happens with me as well, like small things adds up and then it becomes a bigger thing, and a person who is not involved in the causing the stress will be the one who will be
Yes,
affected. It
yes,
happens,
right,
madam. Yeah.
right. So the point here is, I am already, maybe there were so many thoughts already going in my head. There was something that I had to do as soon as I reached college. I was already late. Or maybe some other personal issues, financial issues. I was already stressed up with all these things, that one small act, one very unintentional act on part of my son, just blew off the fuse. So that is what I'm trying to tell you. A single stressor might appear very, very unimportant by itself. But if it is added to an already high level of stress, it could be, the proverbial last straw on the camel's back. So try to minimize all these stressors as much as you can. Because you don't know which could be, whether that extra noise could be the last straw on your back, or that congested place, or we don't know. So try to reduce uh, these stresses as much as possible. Right, now, coming to internal causes, sometimes our own decisions, our own choices, the way we lead our lifestyle could cause so much of stress in us. For example, some people don't do things on time. They wait till the last minute to uh, complete the task. Definitely, you are intentionally putting yourself in a stressful situation. Why do we have to wait till the last minute? When I know I have to do it, why not do it in the right time? So my procrastination, my laziness is leading me to stress. And some people are extremely disorganized. They don't put things back in their place. So obviously, you don't put your things in the right place. You end up you end up wasting a lot of your time searching for those things. See, I know of people who every day spend 2 or 3 minutes looking for their vehicle keys before going to office, because before the evening night when they came back home, they don't have a proper designated place for it. So something that you need every day morning also, you don't keep it in the right place. So obviously you're inviting stress into your life. So some of our lifestyle choices, these are the things which are completely under your control. So if you want, you could reduce stress if you could make certain changes in your lifestyle. The next one is negative self-talk, right? Some people are pessimistic. Uh, mm, they keep telling themselves that this cannot be done, or I'm not good for this, or it's too difficult for me, and things like that. So obviously, if you put a lot of stress under you, or you're constantly trying to compare yourself with somebody else, these are all called as mind traps or personality traits. Some people try to want to be perfectionists in everything that they do. They want everything to be perfect. See, perfectionism is a good trait, but then we can't be perfectionists in everything that we do. We should know where to hold and where to let go, right? So these are some of the internal causes that could cause stress in us. Now, so whatever discussion we had so far, uh, it appears as if stress would only lead to dysfunctional outcomes. Stress can only cause negative things in our life. But then, optimal stress, right? Optimal stress is good for us. That is, stress shouldn't be too less or too more. Uh, if those of you who are aware of musical instruments, especially stringed instruments like guitar or sitar or veena, you can play good music only when the tension in the strings is optimum. If the strings are tied loosely, you can't play good music. If the strings are drawn too tightly also, you can't play good music. Does anybody play any string instruments here in this group? Are you aware of it? No, right. So see, a guitar, if the strings are drawn too tightly, you can't play good music. If the strings are loose also, you can't play good music. There should be optimum tension. The same thing is applicable for individuals also. When an individual works under extreme levels of stress, that individuals uh, uh, wouldn't be optimally performing. He would have a lot of health problems. He could, lead to dysfunctional behaviors. And similarly, when there is too little stress also, there is no challenge. The job is not challenging. The job is not motivating enough. So a person would not put in his complete potential, right? He wouldn't use his potential. He wouldn't use all his knowledge, skills, or abilities to the fullest possible extent. So stress shouldn't be too less, or stress shouldn't be too more, right? See, look at this figure here. I think somebody is unmuted themselves. Yeah, right. So if you look at this figure here, stress is represented on the x-axis and performance is represented on the y-axis. So as stress keeps on increasing, performance also increases, but only till a certain point. What happens after that? After that, performance falls down, performance reduces. So performance keeps on increasing, and there is a point where a person starts experiencing fatigue, tiredness, then performance keeps falling down. So if you are a manager and if you have a group of employees, now what is the key takeaway from this point here? See, maintain optimum levels of stress in a workplace. Too little stress or too high levels of stress are both dysfunctional as far as an organization is concerned. See, stress to a certain extent has a positive effect. It gives us the required motivation and stimulation to cope up with challenging situations. Stress gives us that sense of alertness. It gives us the urgency needed in difficult situations. See, if you were given an assignment to complete and you were given 10 days of time to complete it, when do you put in maximum effort? Most of you, when would you put in maximum effort? You were given 10 days to complete an assignment. Your best,
Ninth day,
Maybe
ninth
from the
day,
7th day onwards.
Yes, for some it could be 7, so for some, right, I agree. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. See what would happen. Okay, assume some of you might say, I don't know, last time for that assignment, I had to slog a lot in the last minute, so I won't do it this time. Let me start from day one. So you take out the work. You want to do your assignment from day one itself, but you don't find the information, or you don't have the material, or you feel that the assignment cannot be completed, or you'll have so many problems associated with it. Second day, third day, you keep it aside, but you have no choice. 7th, 8th day, you open it, and an assignment which appeared boring or difficult or not achievable at all on first, second, and third day, now you are able to do it. Now you would do it, right? So the same assignment which appeared so difficult on first and second day, on 8th, 9th, and 10th day, you're doing it. So what does it mean? It means that we are at our best under stressful situations. But however, one thing that we need to remember here is excessive prolonged stress can have a harmful effect on our mental as well as physical health. Right? Okay. So far we have seen what causes stress and how much of stress is optimal. Now we need to look at the consequences of stress. But before that, let us look at how our ancestors, the cavemen, how did they manage stress? Okay, I'll ask you one question. Who's leading an easier life? Are we leading an easier life, or did our ancestors lead an easier life?
Madam, that's a very good question. I believe we are living a very, very, very easy life than our ancestors.
Okay. Okay, that's your point of view. Anybody else has another point of view?
Ma'am, I feel that maybe the physical discomforts, physical manual labor things has been reduced, but mental labor has been increased a few hundred times than our predecessors, than our previous generations.
Yes, ma'am. Wonderfully put. Yes, right. See, our ancestors had one single objective in their life, and that was to be alive, right? And to be alive, they had to hunt for food, and they had to protect themselves from wild animals or maybe other cavemen, right? So what were their stressors? Their stressors were wild animals and other cavemen, right? These were their stressors. Now, whenever a person faces a stressful situation, certain changes take place in his body, right? There are certain changes that take place in his body. Whenever a person experiences a threat, a danger, or a stressful situation, the body releases certain hormones, right? Adrenaline is one such hormone, right? So adrenaline is released by the adrenal gland, which is located close to the kidneys, on the kidneys actually. So whenever a person faces a stressful situation, his body releases adrenaline hormone. Now let us try to see what adrenaline hormone does. See, adrenaline increases the blood glucose levels, right? So, okay, let us imagine a threat, a stressor here. A threat is a tiger coming and standing in front of you. So we are studying this still from a caveman's perspective. So for him, a stressor was a wild animal. So let us imagine a tiger. So the moment a tiger comes in front of a caveman, what his body does is his body. Now, see, there are few more hormones, but I'm not focusing on all those hormones because this is not a discussion from a medical point of view. I am focusing on two hormones. One is adrenaline and the other one is cortisol. There are a few other hormones also, nephrine, epinephrine, and things like that, but we wouldn't take our discussion on that in that direction. So, okay. So, what does adrenaline do? Whenever a person faces a stressful situation, body releases adrenaline. Okay. Whenever, okay, you tell me, there's a tiger standing in front of you. What would you do? What would any person do?
Madam, we will run. We will just run from the tiger.
Yes. Yes. Right. That is what is known as a fight or flight. Fight or flight. Right? That is, there's a danger ahead of you. You either flight, you either run away from it, or you try to defend yourself. If you have no choice, you have to fight. Assume, I don't know if you have noticed, if you have seen this news few years back, a man by mistake fell in, not by mistake, he was taking a picture standing very close to a tiger's enclosure and he fell into the enclosure. So assume if I'm in an enclosure, I cannot run. What do? I would fight. I know it sounds very, very ridiculous, but survival is a basic human instinct. So whatever I would want to do, I would do to protect myself. Right. So when there is a stressful situation, my adrenaline levels increase. And what adrenaline does is it increases my blood glucose levels. You all know when our glucose levels are up, we are active, energetic. And if the glucose levels are down in our body, what happens? If sugar levels go down in our body, what happens to us?
Madam, we will feel lethargic and we will feel lazy. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Sometimes we might faint also.
Yeah, we may faint on also.
Yes. If sugar levels are too low, we might even faint. Right. So that is the last thing that should happen to us when there is a tiger standing in front of us. We can't afford to feel lethargic or we can't afford to faint. So therefore, what our body does is it increases the blood glucose levels, it increases sugar levels so that we have abundant energy in us either to fight with the tiger or run away. Either in both the situations, we need so much of energy. So that is what adrenaline does. Then it increases the metabolism rate. Adrenaline increases the metabolism rate because when your metabolism rate increases, the rate at which the energy is released in the body increases. So you need to be so what adrenaline does is it makes sure that you have a lot of energy in your body. Then it increases the heartbeat. When the heartbeat increases, blood pressure increases, the energy to different parts of the body also increases. Then it constricts the arteries in the skin. See, when a person is shocked, completely shocked or something like that, have you noticed that the person's skin becomes pale? When a person is extremely afraid or a person is extremely shocked, his skin becomes pale. You know, that pinkishness or reddishness or brownishness, whatever we have on our face, that vanishes and we become like white. I'm sure you must have heard or seen this. And the reason why this happens is when we are stressed, supply of blood is diverted from our skin and it is diverted to our arms and legs. You know, see how beautifully our body is trying to protect us. We don't need any blood supply to our skins. We need lot of blood supply to our hands and legs to either fight with that animal or to run away from that animal. In both the situations, we need lot of blood supply. So body says, skin, you wait for now, you don't need blood supply. There are other parts that need it more. So I will divert the blood there. So that is the reason why exactly when we are very shocked or when we are very afraid or something like that, our skin becomes pale because the blood supply to the skin is completely cut off. Then it relaxes the bronchioles in our lungs. If the bronchioles are relaxed, you know, our lungs can take in more oxygen. We can breathe more deeply. We can breathe more deeply. Then our pupil is dilated. The pupil in the eyes becomes wide, you know, so that our vision is increased. You know, sometimes when people are shocked, they are wide-eyed. They say there's a saying which is they're wide-eyed. So you know, they're so shocked that you know their pupils, the size of the pupil increases. So the body is doing this so in order to enable us to have a better vision. The next one is decreases sensitivity to pain. Now this is again an interesting thing. See, when you are in a stressful situation, when you are under some threat, your sensitivity to pain decreases. See, you know, I'm sure some of you must have experienced this when you're doing you're in some important work. You cut yourself or you sprain yourself or you hurt yourself somewhere, but you don't realize it at that point of time. You don't feel the pain at all. Later, at some other point of time, later when everything is done and you're calm and you're relaxed, then you realize, Arey, I hurt myself here, I cut myself here, Arey, I think I must have sprained my leg or hand. Did you experience anything like this? Is my voice audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So did anybody experience that, you know, they didn't feel the pain at that point of time because they were busy, preoccupied with something else, but later after some period of time, they realize that they have hurt themselves or they, you know?
Yes, ma'am. Generally, it happens that when we are doing something too much engrossed in something, with me it happens so that I bang along with the door, with the knobs or to the table. So at that point, I don't realize it's just like okay, passing by. But then after in the evening or maybe after 5-6 hours, it turns green, blue or
Then you
something like
realize.
that.
Yes.
And then you feel the pain, and when you see it, you feel okay, then this is what has happened. And sometimes you then recollect, okay, this happened when I was involved in that.
Right. See, when you are in an important task, some important assignment, according to you, so your brain tells your body that you know she's in an important assignment, and adrenaline is released in our body, and therefore our body's sensitivity to pain reduces. So imagine there is a tiger standing in front of you, and I asked one of the participants, so he said, what would you do? He said, I would run away. So Imagine when there is an animal, white tiger, just imagine a dog running behind you. Imagine the speed at which we would run. We would run at a very, very fast speed. Even we wouldn't be aware that, Arey, can I run this fast? I never knew. You would tell yourself, you would realize that later. Imagine when there is a dog running behind you and you're running. If you experience pain at that time, what would happen to you? You would hurt yourself. There is every chance the dog or tiger or whatever would come and harm you. So your body is designed in such a way that as long as the threat doesn't vanish, it doesn't experience any kind of pain. And the next thing that adrenaline does is it contracts the spleen. Spleen is the reservoir of blood in our body. So when spleen is contracted, when spleen is squeezed, again there is extra supply of blood into the body. So these are all the changes that happen in our body when adrenaline is released. Apart from this, there is another important hormone that is released in our body, and that is cortisol. Right? Again, cortisol also, there are two important functions that cortisol does. It increases our glucose levels, and the second thing it does is it curbs the non-essential body functions. Non-essential body functions. See, when we are facing a threat, a danger, a stressful situation, what our body does is our body says that, see, certain functions, certain body functions are not important right now. For example, again, come back to the same thing, a tiger standing in front of you. What is important for the body at this point of time? To run away from that place or fight with the tiger? So you need to have energy and strength in your arms and your legs and your vision. Other things are not important at this point of time. So what cortisol does is, see, cortisol, it's like, switches off certain body functions. Because if those body functions are working, the energy would go away to those body functions or processes. So what are those functions which are not important at that point of time? Reproductive system, hormonal system, immune systems, growth systems. These are all not important at that point of time, right? It is so. What the body does is body diverts all the energy from digestive system, reproductive system, or growth systems to the hands, legs, heart, and lungs, right? So that is what, see, so you see how beautifully our body responds to stressful situation. It allows our body, or it prepares our body to face whatever serious or threatful situations are there in front of it, right? Now, one thing that you need to understand here is body stress response is self-limiting. That means once the perceived threat has passed, the hormone levels return to normal. That is, this adrenaline or cortisol or any other hormones, they all return to their normal. Heart rate and blood pressure also reduces to normal. And now whatever energy was cut off from reproductive or digestive system, now they get back the required energy. See, when there was a threat, hands or legs were given more energy. When the threat has disappeared, when the threat has vanished, now all the other parts get equal energy. See how wonderfully our body responds to stressful situations. Such dramatic changes it is allowing our body to undergo in such a short span of time. See, this must be precisely the reason how the human race must have survived, right? So this is the story of our ancestors. Now let us come to the present day situation. Our stressors have changed, right? I'm sure you all agree. Today we don't have to protect ourselves from any tiger. In fact, today tigers have to, protect themselves from us. That's how it is. So we don't have to protect ourselves from any tigers, or our neighbors will not come and throw arrows or spears at us, right? So what are our stressors today? Can anybody tell me?
Deadline to finish syllabus, conduct the exam online, meet the parents of the underperforming students and convince them, and all those things, madam. There are many stresses.
Yes, yes. So our stressors have changed. Tiger or caveman, spear or arrow are not our stressors. Deadlines, unrealistic deadlines, exceeding expectations, these are all our stressors today. So we can say that advancement of human race has led to altogether different types of stressors. We can also say that our ancestors had physical stressors, whereas we have, what stressors do we have?
Mental stresses.
Yes, psychological stressors, right. So their stressors harmed their physical well-being, whereas our stressors today harm our mental or psychological well-being. And one more point of difference is the physical stressors had a clear beginning and a clear end. So, for example, a tiger coming and attacking the man. It would last for a specific period only. It wouldn't go on forever. So the tiger would come to attack the man. If the man is successful, he would be safe. If the man is successful, that is the end of the story. It is not that the tiger would come again next day and try to attack the man, or tiger would have a grudge against this man and come every day to trouble the man, or anything like that. No, it wouldn't happen. So there was a clear beginning, there was a clear end. And for example, he was not left with any food. He would go out for hunting. As long as he was hunting, he was in a stressful situation. This hunting would last for 4 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, 6 hours, depending on how lucky that caveman was. And that's the end of it. Once the hunting was over, all his stressors vanished. But today, our stressors are present perennially. They are continuous. These stresses cannot be solved in a day or two. Can be solved. Can anybody say that, okay, I'll take 1 week of time and solve all my stresses. After that, after 1 week of time, I would have nothing that would stress me. Can we do that today? We cannot. Right? So our stresses have changed. So in fact, today the stresses that we have are also known as pseudo stressors. Right? Pseudo stressors, false stressors, or symbolic stressors also they are called as. Now, the point here is, see, though our stressors have changed over thousands of years, our body's response to stress has not changed. Right? I repeat, our body is responding in the same manner. When a tiger came and attacked the caveman, the same kind of hormones were released in the body. When I get an email saying that there is a deadline and I need to complete an assignment by today evening 6 p.m., my body is releasing the same kind of hormones. See, our brain could not evolve. Everything around us has changed. But the way my body is responding to stress has not changed. Now, this is precisely the reason for most of our health problems today. See, our stresses have to be tackled mentally, not physically. For example, I get a mail from my boss that I have to complete an assignment by today night. Now this is a stressor for me. Just a second. Right, so this is a stressor for me. What changes would happen in my body? My blood pressure increases, my blood glucose levels increase, my digestive system, reproductive system, immunity system stops functioning. Are these things needed to complete an assignment on time? Do I need increased blood pressure or increased blood glucose levels? To save myself from a tiger, I need that. But to complete an assignment, do I need all those things?
No, ma'am.
Not at all. So this is the problem, right? This is the problem. That is, my body is responding in an inappropriate manner, unwarranted. It is not required for a body to increase the blood pressure or blood glucose levels, but the body is not able to differentiate. Whether it is a tiger or an assignment, the body doesn't know. The body only knows that there is some threat, there is some danger. So that is why
Here we need planning. Planning is the only thing which
Exactly. Exactly. Right. So we need mental preparation, not physical preparation. We are not going to fight with anybody. We don't need energy in our hands and legs. But unfortunately, our body is not aware of that. So this is the problem. And the even bigger problem is fine. Okay. Once in a while, body unnecessarily increases blood pressure or blood glucose levels. By mistake, it does that. Fine. Okay. But because our stressors are perennial, continuous, body keeps doing it like maybe 4, 5, 10, 15 times also in a day. So morning I get up, I realize that my maid doesn't come, right? So automatically, the moment all working women can relate to this, the moment they know that the maid is not going to come, their stress levels would just shoot up, right? So my stress levels till the time I complete my work, my stress levels would be high, right? I start for work, I'm already in a very, very bad mood. Maybe so while I'm driving, because of the traffic, again my stress levels go up. The moment I step into the office, my boss tells me something which I maybe gives me some extra additional work, again my stress levels goes up. What is happening throughout the day? My blood pressure levels, my blood glucose levels are going up for no rhyme or reason, and my digestive, reproductive system or immunity systems are not functioning at all. They're not getting the energy that they require. So see the kind of effect that my body is undergoing. See, this precisely explains why a lot of youngsters these days are having infertility problems. Why? Because from the morning, from the time they get up to the night they're sleeping, they're experiencing stress so many times, and their reproductive or digestive systems is not getting the required energy. How will it function properly? Right? So that is exactly the problem. That is, our body is responding in a way which is not really needed for us. Okay, so now let us try to look at the consequences of stress. See, 80% of all modern diseases have their origin in stress. I'm not telling you this. A lot of studies are saying that, right? So mental health issues. People are suffering from depression, anxiety. People are suffering from personality disorders, and all that is because of stress, unmanaged stress. you know Earlier mental health issues were supposed to be a western concept, but of late, if you see, a lot of Indians are experiencing mental health issues, are complaining about mental health issues. People going for counseling, therapy sessions is increasing of late. And why is it happening? It is because of unmanaged stress. When coming to cardiovascular diseases, people are experiencing heart attacks, high blood pressures. You know, youngsters, people in their early 30s, sometimes late 20s also are experiencing high blood pressure or cardiac arrest and things like that. And that is only because continued prolonged exposure to stress. Unfortunately, today a child is exposed to stress right from the time the child starts going to school, right? See, those who are in the late 30s and 40s, or 30s and 40s, are fortunate. At least I'm sure your college and school life was not so stressful. But you look at children these days, their education is so very stressful. So they are experiencing stress from such a young age, but that by the time they enter their 20s and 30s, I'm sure their heart would find it so difficult to function. Right? So that is one thing. Then obesity, eating disorders, people eat more, people eat less. And obesity also has become a major problem these days. That also is again because of stress. Cortisol, for example, I told you about cortisol. When you are in stressful situations, your body releases adrenaline and cortisol. One thing that cortisol does is cortisol leads to accumulation of fat in your body, especially around the abdomen. So therefore, you see obesity in people who are constantly under stress. Then menstrual problems in women, a lot of it can be attributed to the stressful life that they're leading, right? Skin problems, hair problems, hair fall, I think, is a perennial problem these days. And people say it is because of air pollution and things like that. But, you see people working in, people in villages, rural areas, they don't experience this. They work in factories, they work in construction sites. They are exposed to much more dust than you and I are, but they're not experiencing as much of hair fall as we are doing. The only reason is we are leading such stressful lives today. Then coming to gastrointestinal problems also, right? People are developing ulcers, people are, indigestion problems. All these things can only be attributed to stress. So these are all the consequences of stress. Now let us try to see how we can manage stress. See, our discussion cannot just end with looking at the negative aspects of stress, looking at what stress can do to you. How do we need to end this discussion? We need to end this discussion by looking at what exactly can we do in order to reduce stress. So the first one, exercise. Now people generally associate exercise with their physical health. So people say exercise, when you want to reduce weight, you need to exercise. But exercise is not just to reduce your weight, exercise also improves your mental health. Regular exercise improves your mood. It makes you feel less anxious and it makes you, more positive. I think somebody has unmuted themselves. Please mute yourself. Yeah. Yeah. Regular exercise releases endorphins in our body. Endorphins are like, the feel good hormones or the happiness hormones. I'm sure you must have heard this term runner's high. After a long walk or after an arduous trek, you feel high, you feel happy, you feel as if you've achieved something. Do you experience that? People are very, very happy and energetic and active after a long walk or after a long spell of exercise. The reason behind it is endorphins are released into the body when you exercise continuously for half an hour, 40 minutes. Endorphins are released into your body, and those endorphins make you feel, very, very high, happy. And regular physical activity also improves sleep. See, I'll give you an example. We have comfortable, beds, mattresses, fans, and ACs and all and whatnot. But I'm sure out of all the people, of all the participants here, most of you must be having issues with sleep. Most of you must be finding it difficult to fall asleep on many days. But have you ever noticed those people, construction workers, who sleep on the pavements and all? They don't have beds like we do have. They don't have those comfortable mattresses, no fans or air conditioners, but still they have such sound sleeps. Whereas we have all these things, but we struggle to sleep. The reason behind it is those people, those construction workers or laborers, because they are involved in physical activity, they are able to sleep properly. And because we have no physical activity, we do not fall asleep so easily, right? But then to get all these benefits, you have to exercise regularly. It's not that you exercise one day, you skip for 3-4 days, and then you exercise another day. You won't get these benefits. So if you really want to get these benefits of being able to sleep well, being able to have good mood, or all these things, you have to exercise regularly. But I know it's a boring thing. Exercise is one of the most boring things.
Actually, ma'am, exercise itself is a stress. That I have to do the exercise. This thought always makes me stressful. That
Yes.
once more. It's morning. It's time to walk. Wow, it's boring like this.
Right. I know the very thought of exercising could lead to stress in some of us, right? And many of us find, yes.
Yeah, so if we can walk and if we can swim, that is also, I believe, would be beneficial.
Anything, any way in which you can put your body in motion, whether it is running, walking, swimming, or whatever it is, but your body needs to be in motion. See, ma'am, one thing you said, the very fact of, the fact that I have to need to get up, go for a walk, puts so much of stress on me. It's always advised, that you should find a partner, you should find a friend. So if you plan to walk every day, find a friend for yourself, a partner with your friend. So what happens on a particular day you don't feel like, you get up but you wear your shoes and all, you're ready, but you don't feel like getting down, going for a walk. But when you know that your friend is already ready, if your friend is there waiting for you, now if you don't go down in the next 2-3 minutes, you'll get a call from your friend. So that will compel you to go for a walk. And they say, I don't know, if you do something continuously at a stretch for 21 days, it becomes a habit. So 21 days you do it, maybe out of pleasure or out of pressure or whatever it is, it would become a part of your lifestyle. So that is one thing. Maybe tag along with people who are similar, who want to exercise and things like that.
Thanks,
Then
ma'am. I will try it.
Yeah, right. And the next thing is eating right. Food. Food also can have the kind of food that we take can also have a major impact on our stress levels. Eating a regular, well-balanced diet helps us feel better in general. So, you need to eat vegetables, fruits, whole grains, lean protein. What they do is they reduce the effects of stress. They build up our immune system. They improve our mood, and they could also lower our blood pressure. Whereas if you eat foods which are loaded with sugar and fat, like chips and ice creams and chocolates and things like that, they have an opposite effect on our body. That means we feel happy immediately. Immediately you feel very happy, you feel my mood has improved. But in the long run, it again spoils your mood. It reduces your happiness levels, or it reduces your positive mood. So therefore, try to avoid foods which have a lot of sugar or fats, or deep fried stuff and things like that. And foods which contain antioxidants like fruits have antioxidants. They say chia seeds and all those seeds have antioxidants. Green tea has antioxidants in it. So foods which contain antioxidants, they protect our cells against the damage that chronic stress can cause. Sometimes we are, like I told you, we are exposed to stress right from our childhood, right from our school or college days. So imagine the kind of damage it could have done to our body. So what antioxidants does is antioxidants protects our body, our cells against such kind of chronic stress. And reducing your intake of cigarettes and alcohol, try to reduce your dependence on such kind of things. Then drink lots of water. Sometimes people are so preoccupied that they do not even drink water. So maybe wherever you're working, wherever you're sitting, have a bottle of water with you, so that we might feel lazy to get up after every 1 or 2 hours to go and get a glass of water for ourselves and drink. So at least keep a bottle of water. That way you'll drink more water, and your body experiences that positive this thing. Then next, coming to sleep. See, sleep keeps our body and mind healthy. Adults need around 7 to 8 hours of undisturbed sleep every day. Lack of sleep also can increase our stress levels. It can interfere with our day-to-day productivity. If we do not get enough sleep, our problem-solving skills might be affected. We might not be able to focus. We might not be able to come with good ideas. So the better rested we are, the better equipped we will be able to tackle our job responsibilities and cope with our workplace stress. See, when you don't have enough sleep, you react very aggressively, even to the smallest of stressors. See, take for example, one night you didn't sleep properly because of something, because whatever, maybe for some reason you didn't sleep properly, you only slept for 2 or 3 hours, and that too, it was a very, very undisturbed sleep. Next day morning, can you still be normal? No, you'll be very, very agitated, very, very irritated. You'll not be able to think normally. Everything seems very, very frustrated to you. See, that is what.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's true. In fact, a study is done in which they have said, like, drinking alcohol and, the state of mind is same as drinking alcohol excessively and not sleeping for the entire night. So you can't take decisions on this.
Right. Yes.
That's really
Yes.
nice.
Right. So quantity and quality of sleep, both of them are important, not just quantity. See, I said you need 7 to 8 hours. But quality of sleep is also important. You should have undisturbed sleep. That means, see, when you wake up in the morning, you should feel active, you should feel fresh, you should feel energetic. If after a night's sleep you still are tired, you still are feeling lethargic, then it means that you did not have an undisturbed sleep. Your quality of sleep is not right. And one more thing is at what time you are sleeping. That is also important. See, youngsters these days, they don't follow proper sleeping time. So somebody might say, okay, doctor told me to sleep for 8 hours every night, so I'll sleep at 4 a.m. in the morning and get up at 12 in the afternoon. I'm getting my 8 hours of sleep as prescribed by the doctor. No, now that is also not the right thing. See, our human body is governed by an internal clock, which is known as the circadian rhythm. Now, what the circadian rhythm does is, in every 24-hour cycle, we want to sleep when it's dark and we feel like getting up when it's light. We cannot ignore this system. We cannot reprogram it. So what the circadian rhythm does is, it makes us alert and active when there is light, and it makes us dull and drowsy and lethargic when it's dark. You can't go against this. If you go against this, you say, no, I can be awake the whole night, you cannot function effectively. See, if you read any articles on road accidents, most of the accidents on highways occur between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. Right? Most of these accidents in the wee hours of morning accidents, most of these accidents take place. The only reason is that is the time for your body to sleep, but still you're forcing it to be alert, active. So I'm sure, okay, it might 10 times it did help you, but one time it might not. So you might lose that concentration and focus. So that is the reason why you see most.
How about people working in the night shifts?
Yes, sir. Now that's an inevitable situation. If somebody is working in night shift, there's nothing much that they can do about it. But then again, one thing, the articles on sleep management that I read, what those articles tell us is, fine, if you're working in a night shift, there's nothing much that you can do, but make sure that you follow a fixed routine. That means, okay, I am working in a night shift, so I come home every day 10 in the morning, I have my breakfast and all, so 11 in the morning I sleep, I should sleep till 4 in the evening. So follow this every day. That will at least reduce the negative impact. See, what usually people who work in night shifts, they do is, on weekdays they follow one sleep pattern, on weekends they follow another sleep pattern. See, that will again harm your body. So what you can try to do is, you can try to reduce the harm that it does to your body. So follow the same sleep routine. Try to reduce the light that falls on you when you're sleeping. Try to have thick curtains and things like that, and as far as possible, try to make sure that even that daytime sleep that you're getting is undisturbed, right? So sleep is very, very important. So what we were told when we were in our kindergarten, that early to bed, early to rise makes you healthy, wealthy and wise, it is applicable to us even today. So please make effort to get enough sleep. Stay away from all these gadgets just before your sleep time. All these gadgets, your phones, your tabs, your laptops, they emit a blue light. The blue light that comes from these gadgets, this blue light prohibits melatonin production in our body. Melatonin actually induces us to sleep. So if that melatonin production is not happening in our body, we'll find it harder to sleep. So at least, in fact, the articles that I read says after 6 p.m. do not touch any gadgets. But I know it's hugely impossible in today's time and age. But at least maybe 1 hour before sleep, try to stay away from gadgets. I'm sure at least that much we all can do. Right? Then the next thing is talking about your problems. If there are certain things that are bothering you, then please talk to your family, friends, doctors, or even a therapist if you feel there's a need. There's nothing wrong. There's no, it's not a big thing that, you're consulting a therapist. There's nothing wrong. Sometimes we might feel that, I have a problem and I can't talk to my mother because I fear that she might start worrying if I tell her all these things. Or I can't talk to my sibling, or I can't talk to my husband because I feel that they don't understand this. So in such kind of situations, there's nothing wrong if you go and talk to a therapist. So talk to people around you. It could be your family, it could be your friends, your colleagues, anybody. So sometimes the best stress reducer is simply sharing your stress with somebody who's close to you. That person might not solve our problem, but sharing also can be an effective way of, blowing off the steam and uh, regaining a sense of calm. So it is very, very important to have meaningful. See, if I have to talk to somebody, I should have that kind of meaningful equation or relation with somebody. I never talk to people around me, but now when I have a problem, if I have to go and talk to them, that it doesn't work that way. So it's very, very important that you have meaningful relations with people around you. See, unfortunately, uh, this entire social media is supposed to keep us more connected to one another, right? Virtually, we are all connected. We are connected with our cousins who are living in another continent. We are connected with our friends who are living thousands of kilometers away from us. But we are not connected in a real sense with people who are next to us. We don't know what is happening in our neighbor's house. We don't know what is going on in our colleague's life who just sits in the next cabin, because we're so preoccupied with our own virtual world. So try to develop meaningful relations with people. Only then you can talk to them, be there when they have a problem, be there for them, listen to them. Right? All these things would really help in the long run. And sometimes, talking to yourself also can do a lot of good. Talk to yourself. So there's something called a self-talk. In this book, You Can Win by Shiv Khera, he talks about auto-suggestions. He says, if you want to, change something about yourself, you constantly keep reminding yourself. See, for example, I don't have good confidence levels, and I want to improve my confidence levels. I want to be a more confident person. So, according to Shiv Khera in that book, we should continuously tell ourselves, I'm a confident person, I speak very confidently, I walk confidently, I eat confidently. So, I need to continuously keep telling myself this. That is what he calls as auto suggestions or positive suggestions. So, talk to yourself, even that does a lot of good. But make sure that, the self talk or auto suggestions are all positive. Don't use words like no, never, can't, and things like that. So the moment you use no, your mind gets stuck there only. It cannot think anything beyond that. Right? The next way in which you can manage stress is by prioritizing and organizing yourself. See, sometimes very simple steps can reduce a lot of stress in our life. If you're traveling, start 10 minutes early. 10 minutes is not a big deal. There would be traffic. You might miss your bus or train or metro, whatever it is. So just start 10 minutes early. I'm sure that is not such a impossible or a difficult task, but I'm telling you, it will make your life so easy. Or get up half an hour early, right? You just see the difference it will make to your schedule in the morning. Just half an hour early. Try to sleep early, half an hour. Try to get up half an hour early. Try to complete things on time. Don't keep procrastinating. Be organized. Keep things in their designated places. And try to focus on important things. See, all of us have a very, very long things to do list. But we should know what is important for us, right? We should have a very clear sense of what is important for me and what is not important for me. Usually, people tend to confuse importance with urgency. Urgency is different, importance is different. See, usually we get mails or SMS saying that, you can buy this product at this price only if you place an order today in the next 1 hour or the next 2 hours or something like that. You get messages like that. That creates a sense of urgency in us. And we think, okay, I'll get this product at 10% or 20% discount if I place an order now. So let me place it. There is urgency, but where is the importance? Do you really need that product? Do you really need to do it? So don't confuse urgency with importance. Only focus on what is important for you, not everything. Excuse me. The next one is hobbies. Take time for hobbies. Now, what hobbies do? Hobbies, relieve the stress. They keep us engaged in something that we enjoy. They take our mind off the stresses of the everyday routine. But then, what are hobbies? Hobbies are all those activities where you are productively involved, either physically or mentally. So, watching a cricket match is not a hobby. You ask a lot of boys, youngsters, what is your hobby? They say watching cricket is our hobby. Those 11 or 22 people are struggling so hard playing there out in the hot sun, and you are happily, lying on a couch. How can that be a hobby? So watching cricket is not a hobby. Playing cricket can be a hobby. Playing any game for that matter can be a hobby, but not simply watching. So develop such kind of hobbies which will keep you preoccupied productively. Right? So that is one thing. And the next thing is going easy on yourself. See, sometimes we are very harsh on ourselves. We try to do everything. We want to achieve everything. We want to excel everything in everything that we do. See, that's not humanly possible. We should know our limitations. See, I agree. We should give our best. There is no doubt about it. But we shouldn't exert ourselves. So we should know where to draw a line. This is more so relevant in case of working women, right? Working women, especially in India, working women feel guilty all the time. They feel that, I'm not able to spend as much time with my child as my friend or my cousin or my sister who's a homemaker. How can you, the CEO of PepsiCo, Indra Nooyi, when you're free, you watch her interview on YouTube, right? Indra Nooyi herself says it's not possible to balance everything. You will have to forego something somewhere. So if you've decided to choose one thing, you will have to compensate or you will have to compromise on something else. You can't have everything. So don't be too harsh on yourself. Okay, fine, I'm a working woman. I cannot always give homemade snacks to my children. Fine, so let me buy snacks, but out of those, let me see what is more healthy with less of salt and something, or oil or whatever it is, and try to give such kind of snacks. Why, if you are a working woman, why do you compete with your friend or your cousin who's a homemaker? 8 hours, 9 hours you're spending outside. How on earth can you ever compete with her? So don't be harsh on yourself. Go easy on yourself. And then the last one is identify your stress triggers. See, different things trigger stress in different people. Stress is a very, very personal phenomenon. What triggers a stress reaction in one individual could not trigger the stress reaction in me. So self-awareness is very, very important. What is triggering stress levels in me? I need to be completely aware of that. Right? So these are some of the ways in which you can manage stress. Right? One second. So anything that you would want to share with me, or anything that we can discuss here?
Yes, madam. Yeah. Can I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, that was an awesome presentation, and it was really wonderful to know several aspects, starting from physiology and talking about adrenaline and cortisol, and then managing the stress. I have a question, like, the student who is appearing for a important exam, and then that student is a very bright student, but then that stress kills the student's creativity, and then the student will not be able to appear or clear the exam properly. So what could we, as a teacher, as a mentor, can do to manage that stress of students?
Right. See, yes. Okay. Before moving on to this, you raised a point similar to this before also, and I told you we'll cover this later. There is something called as, see, there are two types of stress. One is U stress, EU stress, and then something called as distress. So U stress is positive stress. U stress brings out the best in, your best talent, capabilities forward. Whereas de-stress does the completely opposite of it. So if a student has to perform well in the exam, he needs to feel stressed at that point of time. If he does not feel stressed at that point of time, he cannot perform well. But he needs to have sufficient support. So see what will happen most of the times, students go prepared for an exam thinking that this would be the end of it. If I don't clear this exam, if I don't pass this exam, that's the end of it. That is why we see, a lot of students, they don't clear an exam, they don't pass an exam, they commit suicide and things like that. Why? Because it has been drained into their heads that this is the end of it. If you don't clear this exam, if you don't get a seat in this, that is the end of it. Don't do that, right? There cannot be just one option available for any individual. There's so many options. Sometimes we don't get what we want, but I'm sure there's something else which is equally good for us. So support your child that way, support your student that way. Fine, you put in your best, put in your, not 100%, put in your 200% to this. But if this doesn't work out also, there are other options available. We would explore them when this doesn't work. That kind of counseling, if we can give to our children, if we can give to our students, I think.
Ma'am?
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Earlier in your talk, you had mentioned that watching cricket is not a hobby. I totally agree with you on that point.
Okay.
But playing cricket is a hobby. But now we also have a difference between hobby and a sport.
Okay.
So playing cricket would be, if you look at it, a kind of fitness activity. To keep fit in the weekend, you play cricket or you play the sport. But I don't see it sport as being a hobby.
For example, sir, see,
yes.
For example, my son plays cricket, but he doesn't play it at the competitive level.
Yes.
He just plays with his friends every day in the evening.
Okay.
For an hour. So, you know how kids play, they have some makeshift wicket, some bat, So that can
see,
yeah.
Ma'am, if I'm sorry, but
no, you can go ahead.
Hobby, people would usually, before we would call like collecting coins, collecting stamps, artist work, painting, that would be considered as a hobby also, where they knew everything about it.
Right.
Which is the rarest stamp or which country's coin, and they went extensively into that only.
Right.
So, but today, in fact, I teach a lot of students and I also help them with the placement and writing their resumes.
Okay.
I see on their resumes, they write watching Netflix and all. For them, that has become the hobby today.
Okay. Okay.
But that is a new generation hobby, maybe. But when we were in college, for us, hobbies were more like collecting stamps, coins, getting to know which country stamp you have, and like whether it's from Japan or Germany or wherever.
Right, sir. What I would say is, wherever you're productively engaged.
Yes.
Either physically or mentally. Like, for example, reading books. You're not physically involved. You're mentally involved.
Yes.
So, yeah, maybe anything is better rather than, just lying in a couch and watching a TV, Netflix, or even cricket match also for that matter, continuously. Right. So wherever you're getting up, you're doing something, you're involving, I think that is any day better than simply sitting and idling.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Madam, I have a question, if you can allow me.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Sir, I think Mr. Parmesh Dutt has also raised his hand.
Yeah.
If he's there, can we allow him to speak once?
Sure, madam. Yeah.
Ma'am, thank you to give me this information about the stress, ma'am. Just the question is, you have been informed about eating well, meaning of stress. It means इसका मतलब ये है कि आपने बोला है कि जब भी आप स्ट्रेस में हैं तो आपका खाना अच्छी तरह बनता है, जिसमें आप वेजिटेबल्स हैं या फिर आप सैलड्स हैं उसको प्रेफरेंस दे सकते हैं, और उसके साथ साथ आपको हेल्थ के कॉन्शियस रहना पड़ेगा. एक्चुअली मैं आई बिलोंग टू ए शेफ लाइन, सो दैट इज द क्वेश्चन इज दैट आज के टाइम पे जो मेन्यू जो सर्व किया जा रहा है इंडस्ट्री में वो एक्चुअल में है स्टार्टिंग टू एंड, बट जो पॉपुलेशन है वो मेन्यू को प्रेफरेंस देती है एंड टू स्टार्ट. आप कैसे बता सकते हैं कि जो मेन्यू का जो चेंज हुआ है पॉपुलेशन के अंदर वो स्ट्रेच में रोल प्ले करता है या नहीं?
जरूर
क्योंकि
करता है सर, जरूर
क्योंकि क्या
करता है.
था, जैसे कि अगर आप फॉरेन में बात करते हैं, फॉरेन में क्या करते हैं, स्टार्टिंग में आप स्टार्टर से यूज करते हैं, बट इन इंडिया आप एंड से यूज करते हैं. जैसे कि मीठा स्वीट है हमेशा डेजर्ट सबसे लास्ट में खाया जाता है, बट इन इंडिया आप देख सकते हैं कि डेजर्ट को सबसे पहले ही कंजप्शन लिया जाता है, जो काफी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करता है इस चीज को बढ़ावा देने के लिए. क्या इसमें कुछ आप बताना चाहेंगे मैम?
सर जब हम छोटे थे तो हमारे घर में स्वीट स्पेशल ओकेजन पे ही बनते थे, जैसे फेस्टिवल हो या किसी का बर्थडे हो, तो हम शायद साल में एक 6-7 बार शायद स्वीट खाते थे
जी.
पर आज बच्चे एवरी अदर डे हमारे घर में स्वीट बनता नहीं है, लेकिन बाहर से लाते हैं, मंगाते हैं. तो दैट इटसेल्फ शोज कि कितना चेंज हुआ है लाइफस्टाइल. So lifestyles have changed a lot. अपना जो चेंज लाइफस्टाइल है, that also is a major reason as to why we are eating unhealthy foods and how this unhealthy food is causing stress to us.
Thank you, ma'am.
So definitely it is time for us to change our eating habits.
Okay, thank you, miss.
Madam, last question. Sorry for this. Madam, Kavita, madam, your Hindi is really good. I appreciate your Hindi language. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So my question is, madam, the other day we had a talk on emotional intelligence, and the speaker said you can maintain a diary wherein you can write down the stressful conditions and the other things which affect your emotions. So what is your view on maintaining a diary to control the stress or to understand the stress triggers for us?
Actually, there's a technique called as journaling.
Yes,
ma'am. This session, one session you cannot cover everything. But if you remember, 1 second, I'll see the last point, identifying your stress triggers. You can do that by writing it down somewhere. I think you can see the last one, identifying your stress triggers. So what trigger, sometimes, like I told you, we are bombarded with so many stressful events and things the whole day that sometimes we are so upset, and when somebody asks you, why are you upset? I don't know. I cannot pinpoint what really spoiled my mood or why I am upset about. So that is the kind of situation we are living in today. Say I'm asking you to manage your stress, but I don't know what is causing stress to me. How do I manage it? So there is a technique called as journaling where you write down, okay, I am feeling upset. Why am I feeling upset? What is the intensity of my sadness or whatever it is? So that will help me identify what my triggers are, and then that way I can overcome them. Yes, sir, you can do that for managing your stress as well.
Thank you so much, madam. That was really a wonderful answer. Thank you so much.
Are there any more questions? I think Milind Salunke also has raised his hand.
Hello, madam.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Please tell me some steps about the stress management of younger children.
Stress among young children.
Yes, yes.
Right. Sir, I think we as parents are also to be blamed for, increasing the stress levels. See, the kind of pressure that we put on them, the kind of pressure that we put on them since their childhood, that is so difficult. Who's putting that stress or who's putting that pressure on them? We are the ones as parents, as society, we're putting that pressure on them. A few days back, I saw a cartoon where a father is scolding the child for not getting first rank in the class. So the father is asking the child, why did you not get first rank, and scolding the child. So the child is asking the father back, are you getting the highest salary in your office? Thankfully, we are thankful that our children don't ask us questions like that, or so far if they've not asked us questions like that. But imagine if they do, what do we answer them? So we are the ones who are to be blamed for putting that excess stress on them. See, not everybody can be an engineer, not everybody can be a doctor, but we want every child to be an engineer. So the stress is originating from our unrealistic expectations from our children.
Yes.
There's a small stress test that you can conduct for yourself. I'll just share I'm not able to share the link. Dr. Lakshmi, is there a WhatsApp group of all the participants?
Yes, ma'am, it's there. You can send it to me. I will put it in the group.
Yeah, I've sent it to you. That link, if you can just share it. There's a small 10-question test. You just click on that, you will know your stress levels. You can do it for 2 minutes and tell me what are your stress levels.
Okay, right away they have to attempt this, right?
Yeah, it will just take 2 minutes of their time. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, it has been sent to the FDP group.
Received, madam. Attempting the quiz.
Yes, please do it.
Is not opening. Hello?
Yes.
Link cannot open, madam.
It's not opening. Link is not opening.
Link is not opening?
Not
yeah,
opening, madam.
It is opening, ma'am.
It's opening.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's working. It's working. Maybe network problem. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam,
Yes.
link is not open, madam.
Ma'am, same is with me, ma'am.
Actually, link
Please, madam,
is not
again,
open. You need to
resend,
send
madam.
somebody, and then you can click, because blue icon is not there, na?
Yes,
It is not
yes.
opening.
Yes.
Yes,
Blue
that's
icon
why
is
you
not-
need to send to somebody, and then you start doing. अपने घर में किसी दूसरे number पे you can try. I am also doing same way.
Okay, ma'am.
So did anybody get their stress score?
अभी 2 मिनट रुक जा देगा हमारे अभी हमारी बस 10-12% बची है थोड़ा रुक जाओ हम काम कर रहे हैं.
I have completed it.
Yes. You got your stress score?
Yes, ma'am. My score is 24. That is moderate.
Moderate stress, right. You are under moderate stress. So this is a perceived stress score, which is designed by Sheldon Cohen. He's a psychologist from Carnegie Mellon University. So he just designed this questionnaire, which tests the perceived level of stress. How much, how do we perceive the uncontrollable or unavoidable circumstances in our life? How do we do that? This questionnaire tries to test that. So if your score is less than 16, that means you are perceiving your life to be very less stressful. Now, madam here said that her score is 24, so she perceives that her life is moderately stressful. All right. So anybody who got 16 or less than that?
Mine is 14, almost 14, less than 15 पे आ रहा है. 14 maybe you can say 13 or 14.
Oh, great, ma'am. Great. So that means you are perceiving your life to be very less stressful. So
Yeah,
We
ma'am.
can
I'm
have
very
a
positive
session by
person.
Sangeeta madam, like how
I'm very
to.
positive.
For me, ma'am.
Yes.
good, good. Then we should have a stress management session from you, ma'am. I think if I answer that questionnaire, mine would be in the higher range. So you are a better
Madam,
person
my
to handle this session.
unfortunately 15.
15. Oh, good. Great, sir. Great.
My score is 27.
Oh my goodness, madam. I can
Mine is
understand.
15, ma'am.
15. Oh, great. Good.
Mine is 18,
So there
ma'am.
are many in the group leading life smoothly.
Yes, yes, yes. So happy to know that most of
I
you are
is 20, ma'am.
20. 20 is also fine. Not bad. But ideally it should be less than 15. Fine. So I hope we can end this session. I hope I could, meaningfully engage you this.
Actually, na, it based on 1 month, na, last month only. I
Right,
think that
right.
the last month na, might be stressful for me. Might be somebody has not that much of stress last month.
Right, right,
But
right.
overall, it's not based on like a month observation. Na, so it can be differ. The last month I have some like tough time for me.
Right, right, right. It could be possible. That's a standardized questionnaire. So we use it the way it is. So that is the reason you have to take that 1 month time period into consideration.
Ma'am, one question also I want to ask, because you have floated this, like last month also I find that I can't manage with my personal relationship with my work also, and sometimes I face more stressful. Like there will some conflicts also occurs, like you always busy with your work, still the holidays are going and you are not take caring of baby, like being a married person. So like how we can like overcome these things, like with the work and your personal life.
Right. See, time management is the key. That is one thing. See, all of us have the same 24 hours of time. Nobody gets a little extra, nobody gets a little less. And there are certain things which are beyond our control. So what we can do is, sit and crib instead of sitting and cribbing about it. We just need to manage them, right? So you're not able to take care of your child. So what do I do? Try to, see, there are options available. There are solutions available. We need to explore. We need to have an open mind. The moment you say that, no, I'll only do it this way, if not this way, then there is no other alternative, then you're restricting your options. Then you're restricting your choices. You are making your life more difficult. So look for options. There are solutions available. You need to look for it. You need to manage your time efficiently. And I don't know if you have time. Okay. Read this book of Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One very interesting thing in that, which I personally apply in my life as well. Stephen Covey talks about the circle of influence and circle of concern. So the circle of influence is small and circle of concern is big for everybody's life. Now we need to focus on our circle of influence, not on a circle of concern. For example, attitude of your colleagues. Can you do anything about your colleagues' attitudes? There's nothing that you can do about it. Then why waste time on it? Only focus on those things that you can do something about, right? Do not think or do not focus on any of those things that you cannot do anything about. See, for example, I'll give you a very small example. If it's raining outside and you need to go somewhere, what do? Do you sit and think how to reduce this rain, how to control this rain? Do you do that?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
No.
It's out of my control.
Yes. Unfortunately or fortunately, 95% of things in our life are out of our control. So what do? We don't sit and think how to control this rain. What do? We carry an umbrella or a raincoat. So do that in your life as well. Things which you cannot control, forget them. What you can control, do those things. I think that way your life will be a little more peaceful.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, welcome.
I think Mr. Harish also has a question. He has raised his hand. Mr. Harish?
My score is 19.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
At that time, I had raised my hand.
Okay, fine.
19 is also not bad. I mean, you can try to, reduce it slightly, then you'll be in a very good space actually.
So I would like to thank
Thank
Dr.
you, madam. Thank
Kavita.
you.
Yeah, thank Dr. Kavita for spending time with us for these 2 hours and giving us inputs on what could stress us out and how do we try and manage our stress, either through food habits or through physical exercises, or having that mental notion that okay, everything is stressful and let's not get stressed out for everything. We should know, and as you said, circle of concern and circle of influence. So, but every time you have to be very mindful of all those events that are hitting you, and you should be able to demarcate and say, okay, this is anyway bound to happen. Let me not stress out about that. It needs a lot of practice. I'm sure about the practice part. Otherwise, we will all be haywire somewhere. So, thank you for this wonderful session, ma'am, on stress management. I hope the participants also have had a good learning in these sessions. This is the last session that we are having in this FDP. And post lunch, we will be having an assessment for the participants. And the test link will also be shared on the WhatsApp group and the email. You may access from there. And it's going to be only 25 questions. You'll be given an hour's time for that. I wish all the best for all the participants. And I'll be sending
How many
out
questions, madam?
25.
Madam, how many questions?
25, sir, 25.
Okay, madam.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am. When is the assessment start?
2 o'clock, ma'am. I will send the link to you at 2 p.m. and time you will get till 1 hour from 2 to 3.
Okay, ma'am.
And is the feedback link open and on the Atal platform, because that is also compulsory now?
Yes. I have to check that, but I also am sending another feedback from our college also. You will get 2 mails from me.
Okay.
Emails and also WhatsApp links. One will be feedback which you are giving to NIPER Hyderabad.
Feedback
And
you can do after exams now?
Yes. After the exam, I will send you the feedback link. Okay. And the Atal feedback, I have to verify maybe. But will I know as an organizer, will I be able to understand if the feedback link is open? Maybe if you log into the website, you'll be able to know.
Yes, because for certifications, feedback is compulsory. You can't have certificate because without the feedback, right?
Yes, I understand.
Both feedback is required, madam. Madam?
Yes, sir.
Both feedback is required.
Both feedbacks. One feedback I'm taking from my college side. Other feedback you will be submitting on Atal website.
Okay.
Ma'am, what
So,
time is
you
the
will be
test?
sending the links for both the feedback. So we have to go to the website and then.
No, the feedback that we have created from NIPER Hyderabad, I will be sending the link. But for Atal feedback, you will have to log into the Atal FDP website as a participant. You have your login, right? So from that, when you go and click on the workshop, you will have the feedback link on the left, and you can click in that and give your feedback there.
Ma'am, what time is the test?
2 o'clock, sir. It will be at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. For 1 hour.
Also, ma'am, PPTs for today's session also, so that you can brush up.
Yes, I will share them with you.
Madam, if I can say something.
Yes.
Madam, it was an excellent FDP and I really learned so many things from this FDP. The speakers were really handpicked and they were the stewards in their domain. Thank you so much for bringing all those people to us and making us learn so many things in 5 days. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's very valuable. Thank you for those words, good words. We tried our best to, get the best of the people for you, and it happened like that. So I'm very happy and glad that things worked out and they all fell in place. If you don't mind, can you actually, those of you who are here, can you please switch on your videos again? I will take one or two more pictures.
Ma'am, at the time of exam, whether we'll be joining the link?
Pardon, ma'am?
At the time of exam, we'll join in the link?
I didn't get. No, you don't have to join in this link. I will send you the test link in the email and the WhatsApp. You don't have to join here again.
Okay, thank you.
On and a lot of noise. Can please, I think your video is on. Yes, ma'am. I have all the pictures now. Thank you so much for being such patient participants, and I'm sure you all have enjoyed the sessions as has been told by all of you. Was a network issue
Madam.
at I was really helpless about that. So thank you for being such great participants and for all the
So much
wonderful.
for the one.
Thank you,
Yes.
ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
So much, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the wonderful FDP.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And please be alert. I will send the link at 2 p.m. for the test. And after the test, maybe at 3 p.m., I'll send you the feedback link from NIPA Hyderabad. I would want you to please give your feedback on that also, because I will have to submit it to my management here. The Atal feedback, you can leave it to the Atal website.
Sure, ma'am. Sure.
Surely, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Definitely, ma'am. Definitely will do that.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
It was nice interaction with you also, ma'am.
Yeah.
Your voice is
Very
also
nicely handled, very nicely organized, and very nicely handled. You know, many things can go wrong in an online FDP, but you took care of everything. That was really a wonderful thing.
Thank you, sir. We tried our best so that things won't go wrong, and to whatever extent we have achieved that. Thank you.
Can we leave now, ma'am?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.